Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of our program. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Jeff Sonnergren with Successful Education Solutions. Welcome to the program, Jeff.
Hi there, Mike. Good to talk to you again.
Hey, today we're talking about your new program called College Genie for parents of college-bound high school students. So bring us up to speed on what is College Genie.
Okay. It's a new program I just created. In the past, a lot of times I've been working one-on-one with students, and sometimes the idea of price point gets to be, expensive or an issue. So much of, what goes into the planning sort of can be, boilerplate. So what I decided to do was, why don't I, sort of the way we have maybe swimming lessons or golf lessons, rather than one-on-one, do it together. Then obviously there's individual personalized time, with that. So that's something, very new, and I'm very excited to, get out there, because in many ways this makes, rather than college being more accessible and more affordable, but now here's, more accessible, more affordable access to, college planners like myself.
So if you're thinking about a parent here who has a kid heading to college, what age typically should they start thinking about it? And I suspect you should not start thinking about it the summer of your senior year. So at what point should parents start heading in that direction?
A lot of times, late in the sophomore year might be about the earliest time, but sometimes with student athletes, it may make a little bit, of sense to start, earlier. The ideal time is typically in the junior year. It's almost like a biological clock. Oh, I've got my SATs coming up. Over spring break, I'm going to start my campus visits. So, mid-year, junior year, is an ideal time. Using the summer, as a rising senior is also, a great time. But sort of once, the fall of the senior year starts, it's my final, soccer season, where we might make it to the States or something like that. And applications and essays and list building and studying, because I didn't get my best score yet on the SAT or ACT. So the earlier to start, the better, because, there's so many, moving parts in this. And again, it's over and over, for everybody. But to get the ball rolling, it's a huge, process. And parents, you'll laugh about how different things are, nowadays compared to, when you went to school just a generation ago.
Yeah, and when you think about this concept of college planning and your product, College Genie, so let's say that a parent has the child in their, summer of their sophomore year, and they start thinking about this, and they contact you, and all of the things you just mentioned, are really, really critical. Am I correct in thinking that any one of those moving pieces, if they're not maximized and executed in the best possible way, you could be missing out on something, whether it's money or grants or scholarships or, making the right decision. So there's some real value in knowing a clear-cut direction all the way through the process. Yes.
Getting things rolling, but sort of, in a very sort of strategic way. So there's always purpose for, the student, rather than, I'm going to start, loosely, exploring and researching the whole colleges. And sort of what the purpose does is add, motivation. And I think more the student, gets on board, takes ownership with the process, but again, making it keeping it from being overwhelming, meaning in many ways, this process, whether it be single or group, I'm a player coach involved with this. And in some ways, as corny as it sounds, like you're my kid, going off to college, for this. Meantime, I've got a sixth grader and a ninth grader, and, I'll have 2,000 of these, under my belt, very soon, but I've got a few more years, to practice. And then obviously I've got to practice what I preach in terms of, best fit colleges, not overpaying, and understanding that student and really getting them motivated and then ultimately setting them up for college success.
So what's different about this than like the high school guidance counselor or traditional educational counseling that parents might hear about? Why would they want to look into the College Genie group coaching program?
Okay. So the high school guidance counselor, usually the biggest challenge on them is sort of lack of time. How many meetings a year do you get with your guidance counselor, and how deeply can we dig, in that time together? Obviously, the price is zero, but the time, the hands-on, the one-on-one, in the depth. So many ways, I think, unfortunately, again, not the guidance counselor's fault, is the lack of time, with the student, to work on this. So there's always the idea of what the parent is hoping for versus what's able to be delivered beyond scratching the surface in that very limited time. And then the other end of the spectrum, with let's say an individual, educational consultant, that time will be there, absolutely. But, at probably a high price and maybe more than someone is willing to pay. I mean, it's a great service, but again, the whole access and affordability to that, expert advice, coming from them, it just may not work, for everybody. And that's sort of, where I'm going with, let's say, the group idea to make it more affordable, but all those techniques and insider information, is still available.
I think you bring up a really interesting point, which is this vast gap between the free, which no fault of the free, the guidance counselors in the system out there, they can give some good advice, but they don't have the training and the depth and the ongoing certifications that someone like yourself would have. So they're not going to have as much of the tips and tricks and strategies that someone like yourself would have. So you've balanced the free with the elite, high-end VIP one-on-one private educational consulting that is available out there, and the parents might look at both of those and go, well, I need more than this, but I certainly don't need the high-end. I guess I'm out of luck. And your program is coming right in the middle there, which is bringing in and tapping into the high-end VIP private knowledge base that you bring, but putting it at an affordable level, because doing some group coaching with an element of one-on-one really gives them that power and that punch, but at a super good affordable price point.
Yeah, that's exactly why I created this, whole process, because there's a lot more, let's say, BB plus students, again, totally college-bound students, good students, but just not like the superstar students. So this is really targeted, at them, and really, as bad as this sounds, at a price point where the parents are comfortable making that level of investment, meaning the ability to get a return on your investment, is always going to be there. But first, we need to pay the entrance fee. So that's a key thing. But, the way we've set this up, it's almost like a sliding scale. I'm a BB plus student. I'm an A minus student. I'm an AA plus student. A lot of times the techniques are the same, but, maybe a parent would only invest in that AA plus student, which not everybody is, but the same thing happens, with our son in his, a batting coach, because he plays on a nice travel team as opposed to this, superstar travel team. So that's, the whole mentality, access, but you still have, the quality and the expertise working for
it kind of makes me think, am I thinking the right way in this? If someone were thinking of like a high-end financial planner that works with accredited investors, that this might be just old wives' tale and lore, but isn't it true that if there are some strategies that only multi-million-dollar investors can get in on, and these super high-end wealth advisors, work with those people? Well, then here's the normal Joe that would love to participate in that investment program, but they can't because they don't have the tens of millions of dollars. Well, in your world, what you're saying is, I've been through all the same certifications and high-end strategies that these big VIP private educational consultants are doing, but I'm bringing that knowledge into the middle of the road, because some of these high-end educational consultants wouldn't work with a B student or someone that's heading to a community college, but the B student and the community college student destination needs the same advice. They need to know some of these positioning and some of these strategies. So is that a great example there, so that you feel like you're not getting a watered-down piece of advice, you're getting high-end advice, but at an affordable group coaching vehicle?
Yeah, that's a good analogy with with financial planners. And again, it's I don't accept anybody beneath this level of net worth, et cetera. But it can be what the family seeks is going to vary, student by student, depending upon their interest and sort of the caliber, of the student. So sometimes a family might be more interested in, he likes this, he's not very good at that, what career is that? And maybe what's appropriate for, that student. So you think about, maybe, I've got a B student. I'm really interested in math and science, but I'm not crazy strong. I might not be able to get into engineering school. I like medicine, and my favorite show is NCIS. What might be out there? Or sometimes it's an athlete potentially being an physical therapist, assistant. So there's different levels. And it's like finding a person, finding them a good job in a career that's appropriate for them, but not really searching around and sort of generically going in, without a direction. So sometimes that could be a surgical assistant program, at, a community college. I've got one student, that I've got in mind from that originally wanted to do pre-med or actually biomedical engineering, and that's where we ended up. That's what worked, for him. So having an end game, insight, and it's like, so let's keep this about the student, one, but sort of contain the cost so we're not spending 5 years to sort of find ourselves at a very expensive price, whether it be public, private school, whatever. So in terms of cost containment, it can be very valuable, or just putting a name on, that career. I think with the state of the economy, in the job market for college students coming out, it's depressing. And, where are the jobs? Where are the good paying jobs? And where there's growth and sort of what are the growing industries?
Well, I'm sure we all can think about, and I've got a personal friend who their daughter is, I think, 31 and still in school because they've changed their major multiple times. And I think what you just described is having some of the student positioning strategy done up front clarifies for the student and the parent, and you zero in on what, it's kind of like, yes, that's exactly what would make me happy. That's cool. And then you choose the right school, you choose the right major, and then you're not risking all of these change-ups, which cost money and time for the parent.
Yeah, and lost income. And really, Mike, that's my story. I've got, engineering degrees, bachelor's, master's, PE license, but what I love to do in high school, I like to do college searches for my friends. So in all the calls that I'm doing now, or, the families and students that I'm talking with, I relive, I want to say awful missteps, but slight missteps where I could have made a better choice for myself. And, you start to get the idea, where is this kid's heart? And it may be he loves, X. He reads about this. He's always researching this, on the internet. It's his favorite TV show. So anything where you can get a spark, and then, once we get motivation, so many things, can happen. But if we've got the brains behind it, yeah, I've got that investigative math science minor. I've got, the computer acumen to do nicely here because it is so computer intensive. So finding that match, is key. But, I forget the exact quote, do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And now we need to say, how do I prepare for that? What education is necessary to get me in the spot? Because one time I had a student, he loved fish tanks. And I mean, they were everywhere. I mean, going over to the house, he brought me up to his bedroom, and his dad goes, look at all this stuff. And it's like, what did he study? He went to a program over at University of Rhode Island, dealing with whether it be limnology or I forget the fancy word, for fish studies, and not just for hatcheries. And it just made so much sense. So once the student, get let them identify their own spark, and then you're the catalyst to get them through college and onto, sort of their dream.
And I bet you there's times you've had students and parents say, I would have never dreamt that there's a career in fill in the blank, So I think that that's a really fun and rewarding thing for all involved. You to be able to show that to people, but also the parents going, I never dreamed that his love of fish would be able to have an actual relevant career. How nice is that?
Yeah, so once you turn that passion and interest into like the idea for a career, and it's like they're off, and I don't care if they're a B- student, they're off, because that passion turns into confidence. And then they know, they just want to say, how can I get myself there? And then how do I share this as the service provider, as an employee in my own business? Because they may have that entrepreneurial spirit. We know how everything is on the internet these days. So building yourself to be that person, and then, launching a business, et cetera, or being that viable, potential employee or a partner for someone, coming out of school at age 22 would be awesome.
Yeah. Hey, so now parents listening to this may be thinking, I can now see the light of knowing a strategy and a plan going in, which will help clarify things, which will help save money, save changing majors. Talk a little bit more about the College Genie program from the standpoint of what's the process, what's involved, what's the experience like for the parents in learning from you through the College Genie program.
Okay. So a lot of times how it's set up, it's typically, 4 nights with, let's say, an alternate version of the third night, depending upon, how the student performs on these self-assessments. I'm a math science person. No, I'm more creative, maybe marketing, or I might like, education. So there's going to be 2 versions of class 3, but a lot of times it's just setting the groundwork. And the initial meeting would be like setting the groundwork. What's out there? Who is my student? How do I position him? So again, back to the student positioning, to sort of do what you are, be who you are, with all that. So there's identifying that. And then how do we turn that into identifying a college major from this personality, going backwards from, what careers might make sense for this, and what do I study? So it'll all play out in terms of where you really get jazzed in college and really get that spark is, I'm in this biology program, I'm in this computer science program, what do I do, with that? So then it's, identifying good colleges, and this was always my favorite thing, is building lists of schools, for students, not just getting in, but maybe getting in a place where we can get good grades. I graduated from the honors college. I got in with money, meaning we can get a merit-based scholarship. Remember, we're turning our brain to cash, so our heart is already there, but finding the right school to do this. And then, so many times, and I know I'm in this boat, I'm not that AA plus student. So if we look up the best list of computer science programs or on and on, that may not be for us, but they're absolutely great schools, best schools for B students, or great solid names in engineering that aren't for that MIT caliber student. So understanding what's real, finding nice colleges for nice students, not superstar students, and seeing the process to identify the schools, figuring out application strategies. That's really the whole key in what goes on, in all those meetings. And then obviously outside, outside of those 4 sessions are 2 individualized ones. So there's general information, general strategies, and then it goes right to the student.
And the 4 sessions you're talking about, we're talking about group sessions, like a teleconference where, in other words, I can't make it on this session on this week because I've got this family event, but these are going to be sessions where if you miss it, you can get the recording, and they're going to be group sessions, because a lot of these things that you were mentioning are so critical to know from a 30,000-foot view, and as long as you're guiding them along and they're following along, and you've got handouts and worksheets and things that they can do, now we merge into that final piece, which is the 2 one-on-ones, where now we're going to bring it down in right for your student, and you'll have like a call right with the parent, right with the student, to kind of solidify and summarize the 4 group sessions.
Right. So yes, they would definitely be recorded. People miss things. They have all kinds of things, going on, in their lives. So they get that, and it's a great analogy, that 30,000 foot view, and then we go down to 300 foot view, type thing. So then it gets specific, but they know all the background and sort of the rationale behind strategies, that we're going to talk about, to really set that student up for success in identifying a list of schools that they would be happy to attend and they expect to thrive.
Yeah, I think that's, to me, that the whole program makes so much sense because you're tapping into high-end elite strategy, but at a price point that's affordable and not having to go out to your local library and sit there for 3 hours and, oops, I couldn't make this one, so I guess I'm out of luck. So being able to deliver this caliber of content in a group setting along with the hybrid, and really it's a hybrid setup of group sessions recorded so you can listen to them again and again, right? As well as a hybrid of now your two one-on-ones. Let's really apply this to your situation and help you know exactly how this will benefit you. To me, that is just a win on so many levels. So for parents wanting to learn a little bit more and connect with you, maybe to ask some questions about this to get started, what's the best way that they can connect with you?
Okay. So, obviously it's going to be on my website. The name of my company is Successful Education Solutions, plural, .com. And there's certainly like the member area of the site, for the College Genie, sort of once we're all, working together. But I'm in New York, so that's East Coast time zone, and a phone number is going to be 845-200-7488. And, call away. I love to talk, as you can hear already. But, once we start getting excited and working with students, it just all comes together. So definitely, please talk to me, type thing. And then we get an idea of, what you're looking for, what your student, might have in mind, and then just see how all this program can really help and be very affordable at the same time. So you get a great return on your investment.
Super. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. It was a pleasure to speak with you today.
Great, Mike. Good talking to you again.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.